I recently attended APEX SEMA in Las Vegas. The show was well attended, far better than last year due to the travel restrictions not being as tight as they were last year. So we saw a lot of international guests, and it was really great opportunity for the industry to come together, both the trucking and the automotive sector. While I was at APEX, I got a chance to talk to some experts, some real subject matter experts, and I'm really excited about sharing those interviews with you over the next 3 weeks. This week, we're going to talk about two specific areas: refrigerant, what's happening with EPA regulations, what you need to know about the changes to refrigerant. And the second thing we're going to talk about is diagnosing and repairing cooling components on commercial trucks. So I had to find a couple industry experts. The first expert that I talked to was Christina Spalding. She's the business development manager at the Chemours company. If you don't know that company, they invented Freon. So this is the company that really knows refrigerant. And my interview with Christina was excellent. She packed so much information into such a short conversation. So you've got to really pay close attention because it's pretty fast paced. And there's a lot of really good information there that you need to know. Then I talked to Sean, small business entrepreneur who made the leap 3 years ago to start his own company. His company is Pro Parts, and they specialize in cooling products. And we talked quite a bit about the importance of looking at the entire system when diagnosing and repairing cooling issues. So I hope you enjoy this interview, these two interviews live from the floor of the APEX SEMA show. Christina, welcome to the Heavy Duty Parts Report. So glad to have you here.
Thank you, Jamie.
It's nice that you're treating us to your booth today. We're at APEX, and there's so many people this year at the show. It's been fantastic. What are the overarching trends with refrigerants that you've been talking to people here at the show about?
No, that's a really good question. So in the refrigerant world, both globally and in the United States, refrigerant regulations are really driving a lot of change in our industry. And so from a global perspective, the Kigali Amendment is being ratified by many countries. The U.S. just recently ratified that as well. But also in the U.S., we have ratified and enacted the AIM Act. And that essentially gives the EPA the authority to phase down refrigerants like R134A, which is a predominant refrigerant, both in light duty and obviously in heavy duty space for comfort cooling among everyone in the industry. So we've really been talking about what that phase down is going to look like and what's going to be coming down the pike. On the light duty side of things, they've already transitioned to a replacement refrigerant, 1234YF, but that's what's going to be coming to the heavy duty market down the road.
Right, and I'm sure that, like myself, when we first met and you were explaining some of that to me, this is news to a lot of people. So there's an educational need there, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in terms of the market, what they've seen in the first year of the AIM Act is that 134A pricing has been a little bit volatile. And that's because the industry took a 10% step down from the baseline in 2022. The next step down occurs in 2024, where we're going to be 40% below baseline. And then another step down takes place in 2028, where the industry is going to be 60% below baseline. So those reductions from the baseline in terms of CO2 allocations impact product availability and product pricing. So that's really been the first year for the U.S., and it's really the first transition the automotive aftermarket has seen around refrigerant in over 30 years.
Right, and from the commercial point of view, everything is about cost per mile, total cost of operation. So this has been a really stable product category for a very long time. And now all of a sudden we're seeing, like you say, that volatility in price. So that phase down approach, does that impact the number of units? Like if you have a mixed fleet, for example, and you've got an older fleet, are you now expected to do some sort of retrofit like they had to do back in the days of after treatment?
Yeah, that's a great question. So today there really is no EPA-approved retrofit product for 134A, neither in light duty or in heavy duty. The way the phase down is designed, it's taking place over 16 years. So if you think about the light duty fleet, every year cars are retired each year, and that decreases the demand for 134A in the light duty fleet. So while the heavy duty fleet is going to be dependent upon 134A a little bit longer, every time that reduction and that retirement rate occurs, it sort of frees up more CO2 equivalents to be used in other segments like heavy duty. What you also have in the light duty space is, every year more and more cars are coming off the assembly line with YF. So the dependence continues to decrease in light duty, making product available in heavy duty. But in terms of what you see in a regulatory environment, like a phase down, is as 134A becomes less available, typically see more and more price volatility. It drives the price of 134A up, and it will enable heavy-duty OEMs and equipment manufacturers to start to see a more financial attractive reason to convert to something like 1234YF.
So what we'll see as new trucks are being made, they're going to have this new standard, and that technology will be on those trucks. So as anybody who's repaired trucks for a while knows that when there's a change in technology, there's a bit of a learning curve there as well, right? So what would you say to the people who are going to have to maintain and repair these new systems?
Yeah. Well, the good news is the new systems will be designed for the new refrigerant. So they'll have, maybe an additional internal heat exchanger. They'll have the correct elastomers. Really, the biggest difference in terms of maintaining a vehicle, whether it's a truck or a car using YF, is it's left-handed threads. And the reason they're using left-handed threads is they don't want anyone to mix 134A with YF, and a new recovery machine. So, the industry is very accustomed to our machines that are designed for 134A. Just need to get a second machine that's designed for YF. And that's what we're seeing in the commercial space for light duty, is typically most shops will have two machines. One's dedicated to YF, one's dedicated to 134A. But basically the mechanics are essentially the same because the fluids are very similar. Very similar capacity, very similar energy efficiencies, and so there's not a lot of retooling or new design that's needed outside of some compatibility elastomers with the new refrigerant.
Okay, well that makes a lot of sense. So technicians can take a sigh of relief. Now what about parts people? When it comes to these new parts, and obviously there's that 3-year to 5-year with warranty, but then after that the independent's going to have to do that. So what's going to happen when it comes to finding replacement parts for these new systems?
Yeah, well the great news is that YF has been on the market in the light duty space since 2013. Once we hit 2017, about 90% of all the cars that are manufactured are using YF. So the component manufacturers are very familiar with YF. They're going to be ready for this transition when it takes place. They already are familiar with the compatibility requirements. So it really should be a very smooth transition in heavy duty because it was kind of pressure tested in light duty.
All right, so more good news. One of the other things that I was immediately curious about is there's a little bit of a black box around, the move to electrified vehicles, and there's still a lot of unknowns as to how it's actually going to come down in maintenance and repair and needs for coolant. So what about like a fleet that's going to be mixed? You can imagine they've got older trucks, they've got some brand new trucks that are ICE, and then they also have electric.
Yeah, I think the great news is if the converged solution is 1234YF, then you're using that in the smaller charge size vehicles and the larger charge size vehicles. The thing about EV vehicles is you're not only using the YF for cabin cooling, you're also using it for battery thermal management. So these systems are going to be designed with that in mind. The charge sizes are going to be a little bit more, but you can use the same fluid for everything. So it would be available pretty well everywhere.
So if people want to learn more about this, because this may be the first time they're hearing about it, what's the best resource for them to go and learn more?
You can use our website, opteon.com. We have a lot of information. We've done webinars for the heavy duty segment. We have printed pieces we can share. We have information on YF. And of course, I'm a resource as well.
Okay, fantastic. So we're going to put those links in the show notes, and hopefully people will reach out to you, be able to get some education. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us today and opening up your booth and allowing us to be here today.
Oh, thank you, Jamie. Appreciate it.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Don't have a heavy-duty part number and need to look up a part? Go to parts.diesellaptops.com or download the app on Apple or Android to create your free account. Looking for high-quality fuel injection for heavy-duty applications? Having one supplier for fuel injection allows you to better serve customers by providing them with a complete line, which increases your sales and profitability. Learn more at ambackinternational.com/aftermarket. Parts availability and quality have a big influence on fleets and owner-operators' total cost of operation. If they can't find a part, it means more downtime. If they install a low-quality part and it fails, it means even more costs like tow bills, hotels, meals for the driver, and lost revenue. That's why we recommend Sampa. They manufacture a wide range of advanced parts for commercial vehicles. Their website has an intelligent product search engine and broad coverage of suspension, steering, and fifth wheel components. Expect more. Expect Sampa. Visit sampa.com today. Sean, welcome to the Heavy Duty Parts Report. So glad to have you here.
Thank you very much.
And we're at AAPEX, and you've invited us into your booth. I really appreciate it. Could you just tell our audience a little bit about your company?
The name of the company is Pro Parts. We've been in business since March of 2020. We handle radiators, condensers, fan assemblies for heavy duty and light trucks.
Well, like us, we started our consulting business at the beginning of January 2020, and we just got started and the pandemic happened.
So we have something in common.
Right away now. We could, after though, we could talk, and I'm sure we've got some stories. So your business has been around just coming up 3 years, and the product that you focus on, give us a little description of that.
We handle automotive cooling products and heavy duty cooling products. That's pretty much what we specialize in. I've been in this business since 1995 for several companies.
So you've got a real background in it. What have you seen as kind of a trend in cooling over the last few years?
Well, the biggest trend, getting back to the pandemic, is availability of product. Hopefully we're coming out of it now, but we really had a hard time in the last 2 years just filling orders, just getting product in.
Yeah, and I mean, when you're, it's one thing if your second vehicle is in the shop, right, and you don't need it every day for work, but when you're working with commercial vehicles, those things make money for you. They're revenue generators, so when they're down for extended periods of time, it has a big impact on the cost of operation for the fleet. So the parts shortages has been a real challenge. Now, in your business model, who are you selling to, and then how does the product get to the end user?
Well, we import the products ourselves and store them in Pottstown in our warehouse. We sell to WD warehouse distributors that specialize in cooling, and we have customers all over the country.
Fantastic. So when I was selling parts, I would talk to manufacturers and folks like yourself that was bringing product in, and we'd go out into the field and talk to the end users. So as you're working with your distributors, what has been the things that you've been talking to them or supporting them on when it comes to helping commercial fleets lower total cost of operation, address maintenance issues, those kinds of things?
Pretty much the service, when there's a failure, get to the root cause, see why the radiator failed. A lot of times the radiator is a symptom of something else. So if we replace the radiator and we don't check the whole system out, then the chances are you're going to have the same problem over again.
Right, and I mean upstream problems and unscheduled downtime caused by not getting to the root, that's a bad situation for commercial fleets.
Absolutely, absolutely.
One of the studies that I looked at recently is that something like the average roadside event is $750, and that's probably on the light side because as soon as you get into hotels and tow trucks and all of that. So what products did you start with and what have you added recently?
We started with the radiator, condenser, and then we added the fan assemblies. And with all these newer vehicles coming into play now, everything being turbocharged, we've added the intercooler, which is up here.
Okay.
And a lot of vehicles now used to have a cooler in the radiator. Now it's external, so we handle the external transmission coolers as well.
Do you find that there's a little bit of a learning curve for parts people and technicians when they start having to service and replace those parts?
They need to learn how the systems work and what the new technology, what the computer requires from the components, why they're so important for the whole system.
Right, and it's again that entire system to keep vehicles on the road. I know in some of our other episodes that we've talked to people about things like after treatment, and it's very similar, right? It's always looking at the entire system, and trucks are getting, especially commercial trucks, are getting a lot more complicated than back in the 90s when you and I started in the business.
Absolutely. Everything is runs off the computer, and everything is by code. You have to figure it out. You have to diagnose it with the proper technology.
So if people want to learn more about your company, Sean, where should they go?
They can go to www.proparts.com.
All right, proparts.com. We'll make sure the links are in the show notes. And if you want to follow the Heavy Duty Parts Report for free, go to heavydutypartsreport.com. Sean, thanks for being a guest on our show, and thank you for inviting us into your booth.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
I hope you enjoyed my conversations with both Christina and Sean live from the AAPEX floor. I think my big takeaway from my conversations with both of them is that commercial trucking is going through massive change, and there's a lot of new technology that is driving a lot of changes to the way that commercial trucks are built and the way that they operate. think it's important that we stay up to date with regulatory changes like with refrigerant and the EPA so we understand what's coming. And as Sean brought out, it's very important as technology changes on the actual truck, we stay up to date with how to diagnose and repair that by looking at the entire system. So those are my two big takeaways. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Next week, we're going to be back with another episode live from the AAPEX show floor, where we're going to talk to a whole bunch of people connected to Sampa. They are a proud sponsor of the Heavy Duty Parts Report, and we're going to talk about suspension, steering, and fifth wheel components. And you're going to learn a lot about Sampa, who they are, how they're going to market here in North America, and how they impact their distributors and end user customers of their product who buy those parts from those distributors. So come back next week, and that's what you can look forward to. And then the third week, we will have another AAPEX interview coming with a whole bunch of other information about the critical engine components that you need to think about when you are in the parts and service business and commercial trucking. Thank you for watching this video. Click here to subscribe to the Heavy Duty Parts Report YouTube channel, and click here to watch another great episode.